category, like lumping in Taylor Swift, that's a discredit. It's a disservice.
Yeah, like it feels. Here's the thing, and I have been waterboarded with Taylor Swift information for the better part of a few years now. Okay,
Yeah.
and I feel like I can officially have opinions on Taylor Swift. Those opinions usually try to get me shanked by Swifties. That was an issue at Charlie and Emily's wedding.
Yeah.
When a couple of the bridesmaids got really mad at me when I said Reputation is the worst album.
I haven't listened to any of it that hasn't like come through as snippets on TikTok, so I wouldn't know anything.
I think your best bet, if I'm being honest here, I think you could listen to like Folklore or Evermore.
Okay.
Those two albums both came out in 2020, and they were kind of like recorded in like her bedroom, basically.
So I think the thing that I've always been, starstruck by, right, is, guys, especially nerdy guys, get, lambasted forever and eternity because like, oh yeah, which director's cut of, Blade Runner do you watch? Do you watch the original or the theatrical release? Blah, blah. Like, oh, it's how good could it possibly be if there has to be 45 editions? Okay, so which of the 95 editions of Taylor's albums should I actually listen to? The re-release, the re-release.
I will say, like, I'm totally fine with a regular album in a deluxe edition. Okay,
Yeah.
That is a staple of the music industry. I fully support that.
Sure.
Right? You do not need 17 different versions of the same fucking
Taylor's
album.
edition, Taylor's other edition, the original edition,
Yeah,
the
and
high
it's-
fidelity Taylor's edition.
So I don't know if you've been aware of this part actually, but every single time someone has come close to taking over number one on the chart, specifically in the UK, Taylor Swift has been releasing a new version of one of her songs that then
Interesting.
threatens to dethrone whoever takes number one.
Interesting.
So in the US for the past few weeks, it's been Sabrina Carpenter with Please Please Please
Yeah.
and Espresso, kind of just switching back and forth.
Yeah.
Right. And then like Hot to Go's up there. Not Like Us is number one on Spotify. And
Yeah.
It has been for a few months.
I was
for
actually
like
just
a
looking
month.
at this a couple days ago I have no idea why. And
Yeah.
it was at Sabrina Carpenter, the two of them were like 2 and 4, I think, because Not Like Us has been on the top for a while now.
Yes, sir.
And then there's like 3 Chapel Rowan songs in the top 20.
Yeah, I think like Hot to Go.
Red Wine Supernova and I think Pink Pony Club.
Oh, probably. Yeah, Ping Pong Club and then maybe Good Luck Babe.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So, honestly, a lot of them are bangers. I kind of like everything that's in the top 10 right now. I'm gonna be honest.
It's one of those things where it's like I don't usually listen to popular music, and I think that the reason I was like curious is because like Spotify recommended to me the playlist. And I was like, oh, it seems like pretty interesting. It was like just the top 20. I was like, oh, huh.
I will say though, I haven't been into a lot of pop music. Like it's been pretty bleak.
Yeah.
In the past few years, because I for every like the week of New Year's for every trivia night that I do, I usually do like a year in review kind of trivia.
Oh, okay,
right?
yeah.
And when it comes to do the music round for the past couple of years, it's been pretty fucking dry.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I think like when I'm going into it this year, I'm gonna have like so many songs to pick from. It's kind of like it feels good.
You know who to thank, right? The person who saved gay pop. Jojo Siwa.
Jojo Siwa.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we can reach a middle ground on this. Yeah. Did you see her getting plastered at Disney World, by the way, on her birthday?
Oh my God.
And she was forcing a crowd to sing Karma. Yeah.
I love all of, and maybe this is just, speaking of my For You page, but there was a little while, like maybe a month ago, where every other swipe was someone like really shoddily dressed up as her like alter ego. The worst gets on my new podcast.
One of my exes. Well, this is episode 17 of the BS Crew
Wow.
podcast. I know.
That's kind of impressive.
We are releasing things on a semi-consistent schedule right now. See, here's the thing. I think if we hit number 24 by the end of the year, right? So 7 more episodes after this, we will be able to hit officially 1 a month since BS Crew started.
Wow.
Yeah, so, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's large gaps. Huge gaps, right? But I'm feeling pretty good, because I think I was telling you about how I wanted to do like the one video essay a month, one podcast a month, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that is good for my schedule.
Yeah.
Right, and it's worked out for the past 3 months so far. This will be we have a video coming out tomorrow, which will be last week by the time this one goes live, and then we have this coming out next week, so that'll be July taken care of, and I can start cranking on what will probably be a video about Bionicle next.
Really?
I think because so I'm doing a panel at Kineticon this year, which I think I told you about, that I submitted as a joke. I was like, so I submitted 3 panels this year because I did speed quizzing in the past. So I was like,
Yeah.
we'll do anime and pop culture speed quizzing. It was a really big hit. I think I had probably
Easy clap.
yeah, like I think I had like 50 people do it when I
Wow.
did it back in 2021. I think is when I first did it, or 2022 maybe. Yeah, 2022. And then last year I did So You Want to Read Comics, right? So it's basically like that, like Spider-Man Moon, like the series that we do for the channel, you know? I did that, but just on a very broad level for comics, right? And it wasn't a fantastic turnout, but like the few people that were there, I feel like really engaged with it. And they were like, oh, you know, like I remember one kid asked about the Batman Who Laughs, which I'm not going to bore you with, but like, you know, I had people actually asking like engaging questions, and they were like, oh, like, can you tell me how to read this, or like what's going on with this, like, you know, and I was happy to indulge.
Yeah.
So I resubmitted both of those, and I was like, you know, I would love to do like a sequel to both of these. And then as a throwaway, I figured there's no fucking way they're going to approve this, right? Like it's kind of dumb. And it's just something that I know more than I probably should about. And I submitted the surprisingly deep lore of Bionicle. Little did I know, the other 2 panels got denied, and this is the one that got accepted this year.
So what I'm hearing is about 2 weeks from now, you're just going to be shit posting.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the entire, because the thing about Bionicle, which is really funny, is that I think it was one of the first Lego lines to really have like a cohesive storyline from start to finish.
I believe so, yes.
Like it's that, and then so Greg Farshey, the guy that like created the story for Bionicle, he did Bionicle, he did Exoforce, and then Ninjago.
Well, all right. So, I mean, I was not a huge Bionicle fan growing up. Yeah. I was more of a brick system kind of guy.
Yeah, for sure.
And there was another series that had a similar level of like story and lore and polish that came out roughly like 6 months, 8 months prior to the first Bionicles hitting shelves. And that was Rock Raiders.
Was there like a big story for Rock Raiders? I didn't. I liked the sets, for the record. I think they're cool.
There was a game that added a lot of deep lore. So,
like a video game.
Yes.
Okay.
So Rock Raiders was initially like it's like the first and I think only Lego line where the line, like the sets were developed by video game developers, and then Lego went back and made them into Lego sets. So like the game came first, and the sets that came out were things that needed to be in the game for the game to make sense. And so, and because it was a Lego branded game, everything in the game was made out of Lego. So they just picked the things that were the most interesting that they thought would sell the best.
That's really cool. I actually didn't know that about Rock Raiders.
So,
was it like a PS1 game or something?
It was, I think it was a PlayStation or a PS game, or oh my goodness, PC game.
PC game. Okay, all right.
It has like a little bit of a cult following, so it was re-released like on Unity or something like that, like a what is it, like a open source version of it was like
cool. All right.
back ported, whatever. I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for.
No, I get what you, it was like remastered almost.
Yeah,
kinda,
but it's
sorta.
like free to play, and like it doesn't contain any of the original source code or anything like that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I would argue that came first, but it wasn't very popular because it only really makes sense if you played the game, and like the kind of people who can afford to buy Legos for themselves and play video games is pretty slim, especially in 2000.
Well, yeah. So I was gonna say, I have a bit of a bone to pick with affording Lego right now.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And this is rich. I get it. I have 3 Warhammer armies. Okay, like I understand.
Wait, are you self-identifying as an AFL,
What is an AFL?
an adult fan of Lego?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have since this is something that I'm actually going to talk about in the panel too, and probably in the video that I'll be doing.
Yeah.
But there is, because I'm in some like Bionicle shit posting groups.
Yeah.
Of course.
Of course.
Why wouldn't I be?
Yeah.
There is like a pipeline, right? So the kids that are like really into Bionicle, there's like branching paths. Okay, and there's 3 big ones. So it's either if you're into Bionicle for long enough, you get into Warhammer. Right. Me. If you're into Bionicle long enough, you like Gundam. That's another one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the third path, which usually happens before either you get into Warhammer or Gundam, you come out as trans.
I was wondering if you were going to say that because even I know that one.
Yeah, and it's really funny too because I feel like there's so many LGBT people in the Bionicle fandom.
Yeah.
And I don't really like, I can't really explain it. Like it's cool. I just don't know how that happened.
There are a couple other things like that though where it makes no sense because the other things that are often like lumped in with that is like Age of Empires.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Like RTS game from like growing up, and there's another like relatively niche game where it's like similar to like you would put it up on the shelf right next to your Bionicles and your IKEA Blahage.
Okay, all right, I gotcha. That's one thing that I do kind of want to look into in the next few weeks while I'm kind of building up this presentation. Because to be honest with you, the Bionicle lore, it's locked. Okay, that's just me writing an essay that I already
You were ready to ship post.
I've already done 20 years of research on it, dude. Like it's set. But I've been really interested in that because as I've been thinking about because I want to cover like the Bionicle community and a bit kind of like the outside scope of the lore as well.
Right.
And there is so many people that are in the LGBT community that are like in the Bionicle fandom that they're working on fan games and other projects of like animations and stuff. It's crazy. Like
it's really interesting to look at too because like Bionicle hasn't had a release in over a decade at this point, right? I mean,
yeah, I'm trying to think. So when Gen 2 came out in 2016, I think it got cut off in 2017.
Okay, so
almost a decade.
Almost a decade, but it still has tons of fans. People talk about it. It's like definitely still in like the cultural zeitgeist if you're like a nerd.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think if you're coming to the Bionicle panel, right? Like you've probably you already know the lore. Like people are coming to be pedantic with you. Like 100%. I think it would behoove you to
So I'm very thankful I didn't get actual lead at the comic book panel last year, and that was something that I was fully expecting. I was talking to Josh about it, and I was like, dude, I'm going to misquote something from like an X-Men book from the 90s.
Well, actually,
yeah, and someone was going to push their glasses up and argue with me on it, and I'll just probably be like, you're right, because like there's so many things where it's like, people, nerds, myself included, enjoy being pedantic about that stuff.
Of course.
But the thing about Bionicle that I find really interesting is that not only was there 4 movies made, right? There was an entire series of comic books, right, taking you from basically the beginning to the end of the lore, right? Did you ever have like the Lego magazine growing up?
Like the catalog?
So it was like a more like kid focused thing. So it'd be like, oh, these are the new sets that are coming out for like various themes. But in the back of every single Lego magazine, they would have a new issue of the Bionicle comic.
No, I did not have that.
Yeah, I had to beg my parents for it. I believe it was $5 a month at the time.
Wow.
I'm just saying in the early 2000s that was a hefty price
money,
to pay. Yeah. So I used to get like the Lego magazine, and it was more like kid focused. They'd have crosswords and like that kind of stuff for the kids. But every single month I would be looking for this like brand new issue of Bionicle, right? And I remember actually like actively reading it as the story wound up closing, and it was just like, so it was something that like really grew up with me. I think that's why like why it stuck with me. But so anyway, so on top of there being like the movies, the books, there's a few games. There is, I want to say, between like 20 and 30 like young adult novels. They're not, I mean, some of them are very kid oriented, but some of them are also like I don't, mature is not the right word for it, but kind of the same tone as something like Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? Where it's not afraid to shy away from the violence or anything. But there is so much. Like the lore is insane, Tyler.
These are actually released like books, or these are fan
No, actually released. Greg Farshey, the guy that created the whole storyline, wrote the majority of these books published by the Lego banner. Like that's why, like, so it goes deeper than I think most people realize.
And you read all those?
A good chunk, yeah.
Wow.
A lot of them were growing up. I haven't read any of the novels in a long time, but like even like the comics, because I reread those a couple of years ago. Like they hold up surprisingly well. Like it's not like, it's. I think the difference is that it does take itself seriously. Right. So like you're playing Lego Star Wars, right? And half the time, you kill someone, they shatter into like brick pieces and they come back together or whatever, right? Bionicle's not like that. Like when a character's dead, they're dead. Right? Like it's,
I think that's part of the appeal of it though, right?
For sure.
Because it's like, I feel like Lego Star Wars, Lego Indiana Jones, like even like their newer titles like Ninjago, definitely lean into that like Lego humor, that kind of like absurdist, but like because,
which is great.
Yeah. But that's because of like the limitations of like the minifigs and everything else that which like Bionicle didn't have because they were articulated.
Right. Yeah, and the funny thing too is that like I look back specifically on 2 things lately because I've been thinking about like, why am I the way that I am, right? And there's 2 things that I didn't really realize until recently, but I think they probably spurred my interest in like comics and kind of like the nerdy stuff that I'm into.
Yeah.
And Bionicles is one of them. And then Ben 10, weirdly enough, is the other one. Because I'm assuming you watched Ben 10 growing up.
I did not. I was not allowed to watch Nickelodeon in our household.
It was Cartoon Network, which is like the darker side of Nickelodeon.
Whoa.
I know. Okay, so Are you familiar with Ben 10 at all? Other than the fact that he like.
No, because I'm imagining like I'm trying to picture Ben 10 and all it's coming up is Danny Phantom.
Okay, so Ben 10 was the kid that had brown hair. He wore the green cargo pants with like the black and white T-shirt.
Okay.
And
what was it about?
So great question.
Right.
The pilot episode, and this is the thing. It was written by people who made comic books.
Okay.
The company Man of Action that made it, like they were publishing comic books of their own many years prior to Ben 10 getting picked up. And Ben 10 was their only hit, for the record. So there's nothing else going on.
Okay.
So there's this thing called an Omnitrix that crash lands on Earth. Young Ben thinks it's an asteroid, so he goes to go investigate it when he's on this summer trip with his cousin and his grandpa. Mm-hmm. And this thing attaches to his wrist like a watch. But it's not a watch. It's called the Omnitrix, and it's an alien-made device that can transform him into aliens. So there's like alien DNA from like all these different species that are loaded into the Omnitrix, and he uses that to fight like villains of the week and stuff like that.
Do you ever like reflect on the shows we watched as a kid and think how high were these people when they came up with these ideas for for children's shows? Because like you have ostensibly right, Pokemon, Digimon, and Yu-Gi-Oh!
Sure, yeah.
Are like all the same show.
The show, yes.
And then you're describing something very similar, definitely Pokemon adjacent.
I can see that. At the same time, though, like I liked a lot of the shows. So like Avatar: The Last Airbender, going back to that real quick, right? Yeah. It's that same kind of tone where I feel like it was definitely made with kids in mind.
Yeah,
but it was more of like an all ages kind of thing.
Like Shrek.
Kinda, yeah. Less of the humor aspect, but there was like, yes, but the same kind of vibe where it's just like it was made for kids. Like kids can absolutely enjoy it and get into it. Sell the toys, right?
Are you saying that about Ben 10?
I think Ben 10 is in the same boat, genuinely.
Really?
There has since been reboots that have made it like way kidified.
Oh, okay.
But like it was formatted like a traditional TV show where like there was, or like traditional sci-fi shows, I should say, where there's like the big bad every season, and there, like there's this like expanding cast of characters and like, but again, like it takes itself seriously, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not going to undercoat a character's death by like doing a fart joke or something like that, So it was very much like played straight,
So what you'd say is like either the Star Trek formula, or if you said July 4th instead of 4th of July, the Doctor Who formula.
Very similar. I'm saying, it's kind of in the similar. Where like it's very like if you try to explain it to somebody like I'm doing now, it sounds very goofy, and you're like, how high were they when they made this?
No, but you describing it as being similar to Avatar kind of pulls it together for me, because I never watched that as a kid. And I also like know those things where it's like there's a lot of like adult themes. Like you can learn a lot from it if you look past the fact that it's just a cartoon.
100%.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I think Avatar is the gold standard for a lot of this
right,
stuff.
Yeah.
But like like Ben 10, like it was an action show formatted, and again, like it was made by guys who wrote comics. So
I think the modern day version of that is Bluey.
Elaborate.
Are you unfamiliar?
I have seen 10 minutes of Bluey with my baby cousins.
Our For You page must be very different. So Bluey is a show made for adults that is then coated with, a tasty, sugary, chocolatey, sweet, salty outside that makes the kids eat it.
All right, so I'm familiar that it's the Wheeler family, right?
I have no idea.
Their names?
I've never seen a single episode. I've only ever watched the documentaries about it.
There's documentaries about it? Like, are we talking like YouTube video essay documentaries?
Yeah.
It's like, what about it? Because I'm very curious now.
Basically, they like, you have these very like kid-oriented episodes that are about these like monumental, like the most adult topics you could possibly like talk about, right? So like there's an episode about a miscarriage. Except that they never once say that to you. They never once tell you what happened. Like you have to put that together yourself. But as an adult with media literacy, you're consuming this and you're like, oh my god, like that's what this is about. But like if you're a kid, you're just like, oh, like they're talking about being a family and what it's like to have siblings and blah blah blah. There's an episode about what happens when you have close friends who have kids that are like the same age or very close in age, and you subconsciously start judging your kid's development against your peers' kids' development. There's like that's like a known like phenomena, and like people get really hard on themselves. Like, am I crappy parents? Is something I did? Like that's not the case. But what's the kid show tell you about? Oh, it's like, it's how this kid learned how to walk. So,
Gotcha.
there's an episode about death. Like the life process, like growing old and going through like, being married and having kids and being a grandparent and then dying. And they wrap it all up in a story about making a bench from IKEA.
Okay.
So it's really like lots and lots of people suggest to like push it as like a comfort show because it's really, lowbrow, good for kids. Like it's a cute show, it's well animated, but at the same time, it's like these really, really heavy adult topics that are being like spoon fed to you by like good parents, basically.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's very much trying to be like almost like a more like emotionally intelligent kind of show.
Yeah.
Is that, okay. All right. So you think that it was made with the purpose of trying to also have like parents sit down,
Yes,
kind of get the appreciation.
Well, that's what they said like about it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, yeah. So it's kind of like a teaching everybody kind of thing. You know, where it's like,
yes.
okay, I like
The big to do about it is the fact that in the U.S. and like other parts of the West, it is distributed by Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And so obviously some of those topics we can't talk about that outside of Australia. And so Disney has censored some of the episodes.
Do you know how ridiculous that is? Because now
it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, and considering that Saw is now on fucking Disney Plus, like that is insane.
And because like there's an episode all about pooping and how it's a good thing to poop and it's important to poop and you need to like wipe everything. And Disney made them change one of the words. Like it couldn't be whatever word they had originally used. It had to be changed to like poop or doo doo or something like that. It's like we're gonna be pedantic about the dog cartoon.
Did they say Dookie?
I don't know.
I'm very curious now. Okay.
Yeah. I only half listen to the the YouTube essays. Like it's what you play or that's what you listen to while you're playing Tarkov.
I see. I'm a big video essay while doing the dishes kind of guy.
Oh,
I love finding a good one.
Cooking.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. See, I love finding a good video essay that's between like 15 and 20 minutes, dude. It scratches that perfect itch.
See, I'm a proud H-bomber consumer or like ContraPoints where it's like 2, 3, 6 hours.
So I enjoy those too. So if sorry,
Quentin reviews.
I'm not a huge Quentin guy. I've only seen a couple. I've only seen like a couple like videos of him. I don't have anything against him. Just personally, I'm relatively. His videos about like the Nick shows and stuff don't really do
that are
anything
like
for me.
18 hours long.
Yeah, so I'm like I appreciate just on face value. I'm like I appreciate how much effort probably went into making this.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could ever do that. That being said, last year I did sit through a 5-hour lore recap about Bionicle. I did do that.
So it just has to scratch the monkey part of the brain.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, a lot of the time, like Jenny Nicholson is one that I really like. Are you familiar with her?
No.
She does a lot of like very big video essays about like theme parks and like Disney adjacent.
I can't believe I haven't seen her. Then.
I'm kind of shocked. She did the I want to say it was a 4-hour video essay that came out last month about the Disney Star Wars Hotel. And it went pseudo viral for that. Like she's a very well known.
You said
YouTuber.
Jenny Nichols?
Jenny Nicholson.
Nicholson, right?
Nicholson,
Right. Sorry
yes.
about that.
No, and I've watched a handful of her videos, and it's actually great. Where I will put her videos on almost as like a podcast while like I'm driving. Sometimes I don't look at the screen, but
Oh, yes,
like
the spectacular failure of the Star Wars Hotel.
yeah. How many million views is that at now?
9.
9 million. Yeah, that's it's a great watch. I actually think you would get a lot out of it. To be honest, it's
What's funny too is like I literally am subscribed to like more than 2/3 of the things that she recommends, and I've just YouTube never pushed her to me.
I love the algorithm, man. It's great.
Wow.
It's great.
Yeah, have you ever watched Folding Ideas?
I don't. That sounds very familiar, but I don't want to say
I'm
yes.
trying to think of things you might have seen from him. He
Folding
did
Ideas.
he did a whole thing about shitcoins, where it's like it's called "This Is Financial Advice."
Okay.
Um,
For the record, I am while we're doing. Okay, yes. So I saw 2 weeks ago he released a video called "I Don't Know James Rolfe."
did you watch it?
I have no idea who James Rolfe is. No, but it keeps popping up in my recommended. I've been meaning to be like, that sounds interesting.
So that is the third essay in his series on the angry video game nerd.
Oh wait, is that his real name, James Rolfe?
James Rolfe is the person who
AVGN.
plays the AVGN.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
I watched AVGN growing up, and I fell off before all the drama or whatever happened.
Does he have drama or?
I mean,
So I was never an AVGN nostalgia critic. I was never involved with either of them, so I didn't.
If you are the kind of like jobless cellar dweller that AVGN is making fun of, yes, there was drama a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Otherwise, no.
Okay.
But he's like an easy target for some people. Like people have tried to turn him into like a lol cow.
Oh yeah.
And so he did this like 3-part series about like everything behind all that, and this last one like blew my fucking mind. Like he like is a very good storyteller, very good like filmer, cinematographer, director, producer. I don't know, all of it rolled into one. So I'm pretty sure it's just him.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just
But like I turned it on when I was like folding laundry, and I literally had to like go and sit down and like finish watching it. I had to stop folding because it was like what he was discussing, his take was so interesting. Definitely would recommend.
See, so stuff like that is there's something that I actually almost wanted to make like a tagline when I close out my video essays, but it sounds way too pretentious, and quite frankly, I don't think I'm good enough to use this. But like, there's one like mantra that like I always go back to, and I always try to keep it in mind whenever I'm watching something new or even like reading anything. It's like good art makes you feel things, right? And there's so many times when like, you know, people will put out these like incredible video essays. Like it sounds like this is one of many such things.
Yeah.
Where, you know, the wider population generally kind of looks down on stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like a lot of YouTubers talk about it too, where it's like, you know, like you tell someone that like, oh yeah, they're a YouTuber, right? They get the whole like Logan Paul kind of thing.
Yes.
But then like you looked at in like, you know, people like Defunctland have talked about this like at length in their videos, where it's like these people are one-man shows that create like incredible documentaries that are like in a lot of cases higher quality and almost more researched than like some of these like big streamers they're putting out.
Like literally like Defunctland, right?
Mm-hmm.
He did something back in, I think it came in November, and I ended up watching in December. It was his one about the making of Epcot.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one yet. But
so it, you know, usually like I like to put that kind of stuff on when I'm building Lego, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I was building my Christmas Village sets at the time, and I again had to put down what I was doing and like go and sit and watch it, and like it's incredible. He makes his own music. He edits the video himself. He does all the research. Well, no, he has a team. I'll be fair, but like, each part of the story is told through a different medium. So the beginning is news clips from the past and artificial ones that he's made pushed in amongst the real ones. There's a section that's made from paper mache. There's a claymation section. There's a section with Japanese dolls, like the shadow puppets.
Yeah. Huh.
Like, and those are the ones I remember, but every single step of the way, and it's all like choreographed to this original soundtrack. Like he had
and he made the music too.
I think he had his hand in it. I don't know if he's
okay.
It's an orchestra. Like
fair, yeah.
Yeah. And like just like as an art form, like ignoring the fact that it was a subject I was interested in.
Sure.
It was incredible. Like mind blowing. Like there was parts of it that I had to like rewind and watch again because I was so like enamored by whatever was there that I wasn't actually paying attention to the story that they were trying to show.
Yeah, there was just on the topic of Defunctland, his one, and I just had to double check the actual title of the video. Yeah. It was the one about the Disney Channel theme.
Oh yeah, it's very similar.
The mind, dude. At the end, like the last like 5 to 10 minutes there, where he's talking about how he wants to be taken seriously as an artist.
Yeah,
and then he proceeds to recount again. Unfortunately, I'm forgetting the guy's name, but like the composer of the Disney Channel theme, he was like, "Well, yeah, actually, you've been listening to his music for the past 90 minutes."
Yeah.
You know that like incredible. Like my hair stood on end.
Yeah,
you know, and it's like it's the thing I love where it's just like good art makes you feel things. You know, and it's just like those moments where you really need to like just take a beat and be like, "Holy shit," you know.
You know, the last time that happened to me was when I was on the beach a couple weeks ago reading Saga.
Fucking godlike transition. Thank you. I was man. I loved that. That was great. Okay, so this might be hard to quantify. So I'm not going to ask you to do like a number rating or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But so to give the people a background that might not have watched the Saga video I put out about a month ago, a little bit over a month ago now. I made a video about how I think Saga is quite possibly the best, if not one of the best comics ever made, period. It's still coming out, so, you know, it's not like it's a fully complete story yet.
Yeah.
But what I gave Tyler was the Saga Compendium, which is basically the first half of the story.
have you read because there's one chapter has been released after the compendium.
There is more than one chapter. So okay, all right. So sorry. So there is the trade paperbacks, which are like 6 issues.
Yeah.
There's been one of those, and then Saga is coming back from another hiatus because Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples have. I think they're both working on like a ton of other projects in the meantime, and I think even though Saga is like highly acclaimed and sells a bunch of copies, I think their work for Marvel and DC probably pays a lot more.
Yeah.
So they've been doing that, but there's been a lot of hiatuses, and they're finally coming back with another 6 issues next month in August.
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, so again, hard to quantify with like a number score, but just kind of like overall, did you like it? Did you hate it? Because I was almost a little bit scared to give it to you, because if you hated it, I don't know if I could deal with that.
It's interesting. I think I'll say I enjoyed it despite the fact that it wasn't something that I would normally pick up. Like I really, really like despise the like combination of sci-fi and fantasy. Like I'm not really a huge Star Wars fan anymore. Like I just like I much prefer like that gritty hard sci-fi. Like
is Bebop kind of like the
like Bebop, like kind of those more like cyberpunk.
Okay.
Like Blade Runner, like I've been reading a lot of cyberpunk writing, like actual literature, like the works of William Gibson and
So not okay. So just to clarify though, when you're saying cyberpunk, just for my own curiosity, you're not talking about like cyberpunk, the board game, the video game. That you're talking about just like cyberpunk, the genre
that inspired the game, and
okay, cool.
Because like a lot of people do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep.
Yep,
is what inspired Blade Runner.
Of course, yep.
Blade Runner comes out. A couple of authors in the 80s are inspired by that then go and make books.
Mm-hmm.
So Neuromancer by William Gibson is like considered one of like the first ones,
which I've been told is also fantastic. I've never read it myself.
Incredible. And like there's a lot of tropes in cyberpunk that I really enjoy that are like the antithesis of the Jared cinematography universe. Like I feel like we've discussed in the past that you really enjoy like show don't tell.
Yes.
Cyberpunk is like getting off on like the gearhead where it's like going to the nitty gritty detail, like telling you outright about all this stuff, and like the learning and like show not tell is like the rest of it where you have to put the story together because no one actually cares about that. They just care about like the
vibes,
the weapon and gear porn that is being written out.
Okay.
So like despite that, I really enjoyed Saga. They did a really good job. Like I think that the like civilian stuck between warring parties is like one of the like most overrun human storytelling methods, and I think that they did a really nice fresh take on it, on the whole like journey and picking up strays and all that. Like I struggle to find an example that does it better, that combines all those things cohesively while still discussing about like making a family and like being newlyweds and drugs and what they do to your friends and loved ones and like what it's like to have a fucking soul crushing job. Ignoring the fact that there's all this like violence and everything else, it's also like interesting.
Well, first, I'm glad to hear that you actually enjoyed it, because I was
immensely. I couldn't put it down. I think excellent. I finished it in like a day and a half.
Okay, all right, awesome. Because most people that I've shown Saga to have felt pretty similarly, where they're like, this is great, and it's very unique. I feel like, and it's one of those things where I think it was probably created at just around the right time for the writer Brian K. Vaughan to do his thing.
When did it come out?
It started coming out, I want to 2011, 2012 maybe.
Okay.
So then the first like 50, I think it was 54 issues for the first half. That went from like 2012-ish to like 2018. And then there's a big hiatus until...
How much is it an issue?
Yeah, okay, so this is like comic-wide, like comic industry-wide.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, 22 pages is like the average.
As for an issue.
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes though, because Saga is a creator-owned work, it's published on Image, they have some leeway. So like you might have noticed where... Actually, maybe not, because they don't actually tell you when you're entering a new chapter or anything in Saga.
I think they do, don't they?
Well, not in the omnibus though.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't think they do. I might be wrong on that. I might need to reopen my
I can't
my
remember.
copy.
Yeah.
But no, so the thing with Saga is that like that first issue was like 50 pages, and that's fairly comic for a lot of comic books
Yeah.
too.
A pilot, if you will.
Yeah, it's a pilot.
Yeah.
And I think Saga too, and like that first issue is like so good, like because I've shown it to plenty of other people too, where it's like this is not Marvel or DC, right? This is not, and again, I like Marvel and DC. Nothing against Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
But this is not like superhero schlock. So
Whoa!
listen, there's a lot of schlock. There's a
Holy
lot of
shit.
schlock in the comic industry, okay? Specifically with superhero books, which is great. I love superheroes, but you know, there's a lot of weeds that you got to go through.
Wait, no. Josh isn't here to say it, so I have to say it for him. We love schlock.
Listen, schlock can be very fun, but
Yeah.
schlock needs to have some meat on the bones. Okay, it's like you don't eat the fat on a steak without eating the rest of the steak.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Some of the stuff that Marvel and DC puts out is just the fat, and it's just not worth reading. Like, I'm sorry, but that being said. I just came up with that analogy. Do you like that? That
That was good. That was
Thanks.
really good.
Thanks.
Right off the dome, too.
But I feel like that first issue of Saga, for keeping with this analogy, is this perfect New York strip steak that just leaves you wanting even more, you know? Because it's like, it's not even just the steak, it's the full fucking meal. You got your
Right.
mashed potatoes and grilled asparagus on the side too, okay?
I struggle, to be honest, because like I'm not someone who really like I don't read comics. Like I don't have the I don't. It's not the media literacy, but I don't know. It's the experience of like really looking at all these pictures and everything and like fully soaking it in.
Mhm.
And I struggled like getting into it at the beginning because like I had no fucking clue who these people were. Right? Like
Right.
it just dumps you in this like vignette of star-crossed lovers running away, but like they don't tell you this. So it's like you're starting off. I'm like, okay, so these are the bad guys, right? Because they're killing people. Oh no, they're not the bad guys.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Also, never mind.
No. You can speak for, if you have something critical about it. Like, I'd be interested to hear what it is.
It's not critical. It's more like questioning, and like I don't know if this is like because of my knowledge of what's going on now versus probably what was going on when it came out.
Sure. Yeah.
So the guy that sold them out at the beginning,
Yes. Yep.
he seemed to be coded quite a bit like the flying dudes from Star Wars that he owns the junk shop that like enslaves Anakin, and that character and that kind of like persona is often very like anti-Semitic. Was that like a component of this,
I'm sorry,
or am I
wait.
reading into it?
I think you might be reading, because you thought the monkey guy in the first issue was anti-Semitic.
I thought so because he was very Watto coded, and Watto is very anti-Semitic.
I think, Watto is definitely anti-Semitic. I'm not. Listen, we are not defending Watto in this house. Okay, this is not what we're doing. Your Jedi mind tricks don't work on me. Oh my god, terrible, fucking terrible. Anyway, no, I feel like I think I definitely don't think I would like to think that I'm still far enough removed where I could be like, yeah, that was a little bit sus.
Okay.
I personally don't feel like it was, because
Maybe it was just because I felt Watto. You know,
That could be.
it was like boiling over. You know.
Now that I think about it, I feel like we make fun of Watto quite frequently. So I think that might be why. No, I think like how you said, how it kind of starts you in like this like vignette of like like Alana's giving birth,
Right,
like all
right.
that's happening. I think the guy in the garage that gets shot, I think that's just meant to drop you. Just like, oh, like I think it's supposed to give you like a taste of like, oh, people can get backstabbed any minute,
Right,
like,
okay.
like you had this guy,
I got you.
because in the first 10 pages you already met this guy that's like a double agent almost.
Yeah.
Not double agent, but like he's playing for both sides,
Right.
and but I think that first issue the entire series I can't recommend enough. But that's so. Was there anything? Because I would be curious to hear if there was anything that you didn't like outside of our potential dog whistles.
So, what's his name? The freelancer that you follow through most of the series.
The Will.
The Will.
Yes.
I did not really like his character arc. Like the fact that he's just like he goes from being like the best of the best to just being this like degenerate. To then like I'm back in the game, but he's not. He's just high for 150 fucking pages. Like I don't know, like what he did, like his whole story arc, I was not a fan of.
Yeah, so I think the point of the Will, as much as I like his backstory, I think he's very much still written to be just like an irredeemable piece of shit.
Okay.
Like and like as if you have any interest in reading the rest of the series, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Like, please let me know.
Yeah, no, I would. I'd love to continue.
I have all the issues so far, I think.
Well, like, so with him, like, I guess with that context, it makes a little more sense.
Sure.
Like, I think they did a really good job where it's like they make you want to feel bad for him, but he's just like such a shitbag that you can't.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's interesting to me that all the other characters that are in his like side arc are like demonstratively more interesting than he is.
Okay, so it's like, who do you think would be more interesting than him in this case?
So like, I thought that his sister was super cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
The princess,
Marco's ex.
Marco's ex,
Gwendolyn.
very interesting.
Yes.
The fact that she adopted the person that he adopted from the brothel,
yes.
Very interesting. I also think that was an interesting component that I like that really took me kind of astray, because like obviously these issues probably came out like years apart from each other, so like chronologically it made more sense, but like just flipping the pages where it's like this person who was like 4 is now like 13 and is the assistant for this freelancer.
Yes.
Like it's very jarring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like Saga was pretty well known for its breaks.
Time skips, breaks.
Well, for the breaks in publishing too.
Okay.
So that would probably explain some of that, because like it is done very intentionally, but I totally do get like going from like issue to issue and you're like, whoa, like Sophie's 13 now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, whoa, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. Because when they came back from hiatus the first time, so after that big final issue that you read,
yeah,
Hazel is now like, I think 14 now.
Okay.
So she really just like kind of like I think it's like maybe a 4-year time skip, I want to say.
Yeah. Because she was like 8 or 10, I think, at the
like
end.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think about any other like big like plot points that I might want to.
So I mean, we'll have to spoiler tag this, but I am very impressed with the fact that they do not hold punches and they will kill anybody.
Oh, straight up,
they do not give a fuck.
I think I needed to put okay, we'll get into the spoiler section here, because I feel like it's kind of tough to continue this without getting into the spoiler territory. But so spoilers now. But at the end of that final issue, when you do that page turn to Marco dying, it's like, holy fuck! Like, at least in my opinion, I feel like for the first 50 or so issues, I felt like, even though like Hazel was a very, very important component to the story, obviously, I felt like Marco was like the main driving force for much.
I think, and I think one of the other things that they do remarkably well is the cliffhangers that they leave you on are just immaculate.
Oh yeah,
like obviously I haven't read further, so I don't know if he's actually did or not. But like early on in the series, he has like a lethal injury and he has to get crawled up to the snow so they can do the incantation to bring him back to life or save him or whatever else. So it's like any other time someone else is like on the verge of death, like, oh, they'll just do some magic bullshit again and bring him back. But like oftentimes they don't, right? Or like when the will is hallucinating, like you see his ex-girlfriend and what's his sister's name?
Sophie.
No, well, what's her freelancer name?
Oh shit, I don't remember her freelancer name.
Whatever. You see her after she's died.
Yes.
And you're like, wait a minute. So hold the fucking phone. I watched both these characters get like disemboweled, right? Like, no amount of snow is fixing this. Like, you can't just drop them. Like, oh no, they're fine. Everything's fine. I think the other one that was like kind of jarring to me was the.
Was it Prince Robot?
No. So early on, I almost gave up because I told you like I really don't like the whole magic component of it, because it's like magic is a good way to get around shitty writing. Like, oh, we need
100%.
We need XYZ to happen. So magically,
Yeah, it's a magic MacGuffin.
Right. But I think they do a very good job of being like A, consistent with it, but B, like very conservative with the magic bullshit that they decided to bring into the universe. The I need to hear a secret that no one else has ever been told to free you from the ropes. And then 100 pages later, the dad frees himself from the ropes by saying he's dying of space cancer.
Yep.
Immaculate.
I love it.
Like mind blowing. And a part of the reason I think I really enjoyed it is the fact that despite the fact it's like this magic sci-fi bullshit, it's all incredibly grounded, right?
Mm-hmm.
The parents show up out of nowhere with this like magic space gear that just teleports you anywhere, and he's like, "How the fuck did you afford?" "Oh, we sold the house. We gave up all of our worldly belongings so we could buy the jumpsuits." It's like, wait, what?
I think it's really cool from like an art style perspective too.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Where like and I talk about it in the video where it's like, you can go from like this like grand scale, like sci-fi war, and then you could see Marco wearing this helmet that teleports you on his flying rocket ship treehouse,
right?
And like
right.
it blends in, like you don't guess twice, like you don't. Think
and then
twice
you cut from the treehouse to the fascist detention block for all the other genetic freaks and weirdos. It's I don't know. It's very cohesive in the way that's designed, and like the storytelling, like they never. Like sometimes I feel like if you're a writer and you have these kind of tools at your disposal, you end up doing things that like they don't really contribute to the story. Like you're just like you're being pompous because you have the opportunity to, because of the story there or the universe that you've made for yourself. They not at any point did I like read through and I was like, oh, this is a filler episode, right? Like, oh, they need to get something out to publisher. Like every single thing was very like meticulously put in. Like it had purpose in the storyline.
Yeah, and like I think even when things do get kind of like slow in the story, right?
Yeah.
So like I think so for example, like when Hazel gets separated from her parents and she's in the prison and everything, like I think they do a really good job of what otherwise I think if you gave it to 90% of other comic writers, it would have been probably dubbed like the worst part of the book. Right? Like it would have been so easy for that to suck.
Yeah.
Right? But I think you get some of the most emotionally powerful moments out of the series with that, just because Brian K. Vaughan is like, so like he does so good with these like small moments.
Yeah.
Right. So like instead of it just being like a like a throwaway gag that Hazel, like instead of Hazel just trying to like hide her wings the entire time.
Yeah.
Right. You have her show her teacher, and same thing. You get the patron, the teacher like almost dies.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you're just like, oh shit. And like it's constantly going. Like they don't ever take any breaks. And not to mention that he also takes the time, especially in that detention block, to introduce
his mom, Marco's mom,
as well as the other person that I'm forgetting her name, and her name is the name of a moon.
Yeah,
I don't remember. It's killing me.
Her whole story is very tactful in general. Like the fact that someone who's non-binary, like doesn't identify as what they're born as is like part of this like art piece and is not like lambasted, is like just another member of the crew. Pretty cool. Yeah, pretty interesting. And her relationship with their relationship with Prince Robot was very interesting. That was not something that I was anticipating.
I really do love, like, I think Prince Robot he very well could be my favorite character. It is the same thing where it's like I think he almost mirrors.
He's dead, right?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Generally speaking, in Saga, if you see someone's head get ripped off, they're gone.
Oh, okay.
Like,
damn.
How like they're not scared to kind of pull punches. Like the Prince Robot one was definitely a very conclusive. He's gone. He's not coming back.
Okay.
And so that's why I think too. But I think it's really interesting how like him and the Will have kind of like opposite story arcs. I feel like because. Like, don't get, at the end of the day, Prince Robot is still a piece of shit, but he's still trying to do better, right? Because he has these people in his life that he tries to take care of, like his son, right? Yeah. And I think like even in the last pages when like Marco was like, yeah, like I don't believe that you're trying to sell us out. Yeah. Like I truly do believe that. Like, I think that it took a tremendous amount of growth, even though he's still a tremendous asshole. He actually kind of like let the other people in. Yeah. You know what I mean?
He's interesting because you kind of see this person again. It's like it's one of those things where it's like a story that's been told a million times, right? It's like the princess trying to do good for the king, or it could be the president's son, or whatever other malarkey. His fall from grace, and then like becoming a degenerate, and then like deciding he's gonna do something. Like I agree with you. Very much so parallels what the Will goes through, and his arc is much better.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
But like him initially doing everything for his wife and then for his son, I don't know. It's interesting because it's like, it's almost like, he takes actions that, like, while misguided, are very clearly like in the pursuit of for things for people he loves, right?
Right. And I think the interesting turn there is that he spent the first, obviously he's a TV, I don't know how old he is, but like he spent like all the way into his adulthood just trying to serve his parents, right? To try to like, earn their approval, right?
Yeah.
And then so when he finally has these people like his wife and his son and Petrichor later on,
Yeah.
Petrichor's a name I completely forgot about it until right now. But like, and then when he finds Petrichor, he's like, yeah, no, like I finally found like people in my life that like he could still serve these people, right? He could still help them. He could be of use, even though he's still an asshole. He's ultimately trying to help the people in his life.
The robot people are very interesting, just generically.
Yes. I think it's very inventive, I will say.
It's very inventive. Like the whole, like, sometimes when they're sleeping, their dreams are on their face, or like sometimes if they have like an emotional outburst, like shit shows up on their face. The fact that they are like racist towards color TVs, or sorry, black and white TVs versus color TVs.
Yeah.
The fact that his dad is a fucking flat screen. Like, I don't know what I was expecting, but it was like, that was kind of funny, right?
Oh, it's hilarious.
Like it kind of feels like Mr. Krabs and his daughter. Like I don't know, like very like something weird and off-putting about it, but yeah, very, very interesting. And like the parallels, like because he lived the most like normalized like suburban life up until the point where he was deployed, you kind of see these like really interesting tidbits from his kingdom and like his growing up, and then like the people he leans on, like him calling the doctor out of nowhere, and then the doctor fucking him over and like having him stripped of his titles and everything. Like that was something I was not expecting. Like that was an interesting, like, for these people that he's ostensibly hates, that he's been talking about, like, I can't wait to just kill you or whatever. Like once you're no longer useful to me, that he like ostensibly gave up his life to reach out to the doctor to get the information.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. It was interesting because it was like this sudden like growth spurt that I was not anticipating for him to have.
I think, and I do think that's kind of like where like his character starts to turn around.
Yeah.
Where he decides that he's going to save Marco.
Yeah.
And like, you know, obviously when Marco's like tripping balls, you know, like.
And the weed bush. What, like.
Again, like everything in the series. And I think like I appreciate how you're saying that, like, you know, you kind of like it. Like you like your settings if they just stay on one side of the lane, right? They choose, we're really sci-fi or we're really fantasy, right?
Yeah,
like,
the talking weed plant that was a pill pusher really threw me for a loop.
But again, like because of kind of like how we were saying, how like there's these other stories that just play these really weird things completely straight.
Yeah.
Like when she dies, I'm like, oh my God. Like, I can't believe they just did that. You know, when she sacrifices herself to like fuel them, I'm like,
yeah.
Like, you don't expect that, right? And on top of that, the art is, like, super creative with how they handle all that, too.
I'm happy in what I've seen that they have not killed off the otter guy yet.
If they ever... Are you talking about Goose?
Yes.
Yeah, if they ever kill off Goose, I think I'm dropping the book. I'm going to be honest. That was...
Unproblematic king.
Yeah, unproblematic king, dude. I fucking love Goose. I will say, there is certain characters that I do think are safe. Okay? One of which is confirmed in writing by Fiona Staples, because and again, when I was doing the Saga video, I read a ton of interviews between her and Brian Vaughn, and Brian Vaughn wanted to kill Lion Cat. I think they didn't say specifically in which issue, but I'm assuming it was in the issue in which Lion Cat gets like blown out the airlock when like the Will's ship blows up.
Oh, the cat.
Yeah, Lion Cat. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry. Yes, Lion Cat. Okay.
Lion Cat. Yes. So when Lion Cat is kind of like blown out the airlock, basically when like his ship gets it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's in there where Brian Vaughn initially wanted to kill Lion Cat. If Fiona said, if you kill Lion Cat, I'm dropping off this book. And I was like, okay, so I have to assume that like Goose and Lion Cat are probably the only two that are safe.
Lion Cat was such an interesting addition too.
Oh, I
because you like it gives you much more freedom with what you're writing. Like, you know, the fact that Lion Cat is the one that's involved in like all of the like the parallel universe where what's her name? Marco's ex-girlfriend.
Yes. Yeah.
Marco's ex-girlfriend is
Gwendolyn, yes.
Is doing all this like espionage shit and like all these back alley deals. Like, you know that none of the people in those rooms are lying. Yeah. Because the cat's there, and it's like, whoa, hold on. Like it's interesting because you talk about in writing you have the unreliable narrator, and like it's so cool to have like a story where you have like a guarantee that everyone is a reliable narrator because they can't lie in front of the cat.
I will say that one of my favorite things, and like I think Lion Cat is really like the unsung hero of like so much of this book.
Yeah.
He's not only does Lion Cat deliver some of the funniest lines in this book.
Yeah.
Like so many times where he's like lying, and he's like he really wants to know, like he wishes it wasn't true.
Yeah.
But like there's so many other things too where like Lion Cat when after Sophie gets rescued by Will and Gwendolyn, and it's one of my favorite moments in the book where Sophie is talking about how she basically feels like she's dirty, for lack of a better word, after after being pimped out, basically. Yeah. And then Lion Cat just tries to like comfort her with that.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, like that's such a good fucking like I love it because it's like you're making the animal sidekick who is also, even though they're a cat, they're still kind of a rotten son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Like 100%. But like I just like I love that there's so much character even for like a fucking cat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's great.
The asteroid people that went into the sun.
Heartbreaking, dude.
That whole section was very interesting to me because the authors are saying a lot about people with like unsung beliefs and like the cosmos have protected us before, and it's like, well,
not now. Yeah, I will say the politics of Saga are not subtle.
No,
I will never
not
pretend
the
that they are. Again, this especially like that arc in particular was released, I think, right around the 2016 election. If that gives you any kind of idea.
Yeah.
So like, I think the thing to keep in mind about Saga, one of many things to think about, is that like the politics are not subtle, right? Like it's very squarely on one side of the political aisle, right? Yeah. Do I still happen to agree with all those things? Yeah, pretty much.
For the most part,
yeah, like pretty much. One thing that I really like, and it actually, I looked back again when I was scripting the Saga video, and there was quite a bit of controversy.
Wait. Now that you've said that, I'm like thinking back. There is quite a bit of like interesting, like Abortion Town.
Yeah, that was gonna be the big one.
I was like, wait a minute.
It's like how people are watching The Boys now, and they're like, what do you mean it's making fun of us? Like they haven't been for the past 4 seasons, right? Like, so like pretty much from square one, like Saga fully disapproves of like intense nationalism, militarism, right? Petrichor was introduced as a trans character and is very nonchalant and just being like, this is what I am, you know? And then, then of course Abortion Town happens with a lot of miscarriage, which again, Abortion Town, hilarious. Like that page turn when you're like, howdy folks, there's the little owl in the cowboy hat. Welcome to Abortion Town.
Bro.
Hilarious.
And then they get refused. Like, could have been more on the nose.
It's great.
Oh my God. Yeah. And then like, they saw like a wolf or something like that.
Yes.
And, oh my God, it is a little on the nose. I was drunk when I read that section, but now that I'm like thinking about it, like the other patient was an elephant.
Yes.
You.
Yeah. Well, and again, like it's a very like the comic. Again, some people don't fucking realize the comic is very, very easily portraying this as like a pro-choice thing.
Right.
Like you can tell that Brian Vaughn feels that way, which like thumbs up. I do agree. That's but it's one of those things too where you could very easily map, oh hey, someone couldn't get proper birth control and now they're going to get an abortion from some like back alley dealer, right? Like that's like shit like that happens, Yeah. And again, like you could definitely tell that like that whole, especially that section of the comic was released right around the 2016 election.
Yeah.
Which is fine again because like I feel like there's plenty of times where you could see politics that are shoehorned in.
Yeah.
And again, like even though it's not subtle, I still feel like there's a lot of like really good emotional beats that kind of tie that in. Like Hazel playing with her baby brother that's like a ghost. And like need to like say bye to him, dude. That's soul crushing. Like,
and it was like, it was one of those interesting times where it's like they, like because they can do magic, they could have done whatever they wanted, and like that's what they did. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There was another thing. Well, so the arc where, oh my God, what's Marco's wife's name? Alana.
Yeah.
When Alana's in the space soap opera and starts using Space drugs. Fade away. Space drugs.
Great name for a drug, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I will say, like, these like cyberpunky sci-fi, they always have killer fucking names.
Fucking dude.
Red Eye, Fade Away. Like, come on, like,
bro. I'm gonna be honest with you, okay? If you tried to sell me a drug called Fade Away, dude, oh my god, I would be a junkie by the end of the week. I'm not gonna lie. All right, that's great. Like, all these sci-fi drugs seem so fucking cool, man. And then like, no, we get Fent. Okay.
But like that whole arc was like really interesting. Like, it turned everything on its heels, because usually when you're talking about like, oh, going into hiding, blah, 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 it's like the guy that goes and gets some like soul crushing job in the mines or whatever else, like to feed his family. True. No, she's in a soap opera.
Yeah, no, and oh, sorry.
No. And he's like left to like fend as if he was a single dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like the way that they approached his like illustrious relationship with the dance mom.
Yeah.
Was really interesting and really touching. And again, like, I feel like it's really hard in pretty much any other medium to have that like tender, quiet human moment that Saga seems to kind of do over and over and over again.
Oh yeah. And it's one of my favorite things about that too. Like, there's so many different like eras of this comic, and they all have very different things that make them great. Right? Don't get me wrong. Like the kind of like the humanity shown throughout the entire series.
Yeah.
Is great. Like, the actual character writing is excellent, but it's also the way on how they handle these topics, right? So, you know, you could talk about things like domestic abuse, right? You could talk about cheating in affairs, right? And there's so many times especially like in the comic book medium, these things are often handled terribly, right? And is that because a lot of the viewers have terrible media literacy? Yes. Okay. But also, like, there's so many times where there's these things that just things go so far off the rails, right? But at the end of the day, in Saga, you know, they're written realistically.
Yeah.
Right. So like when Marco, and again, like it's one of those things where like you could see this playing out in like a TV drama where like the husband, like they're like this couple is in an argument and the husband throws a bag of groceries at his wife, right?
Yeah.
And that's like the breaking point for them.
Yeah.
Right. And it would be for a lot of people, obviously, but like it's not handled with like, I don't know, fucking Doc Ock trying to tear down the Empire State Building. You know, like it's handled in a very grounded and realistic way. And then that also dovetails really good into Marco's guilt when he's trying to find his wife and daughter.
Yeah. Like
right after that, you know, so it's perfect.
I think the other thing that I really liked that they had a lot of tact with, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they had tact with it or it was just like another one of those, like they were kind of being very tongue in cheek about what happens in the real world. Mm-hmm. The reporter and the photographer.
Oh, Upshur and Doff, yes.
That were, you know, from the get-go very clearly in a relationship.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Like the fact that the dude from Alana's side that is like, you know, they're Gwendolyn. What is that guy? Whatever.
Oh, are you talking about the blonde agent guy?
Yeah, the scumbag.
Yeah, I'm forgetting his name, but yes.
So like, this is clearly someone who's like not afraid to get his hands dirty. Like, has definitely had people killed, and he instead decides, oh no, I'm not going to kill you two. I will just leak to your world that is extremely homophobic that you're gay.
Yes.
If you don't stop, right? Like, I thought that was like, it was really interesting because like any other, you know, media that you would consume would just be like, well, no, if you release this story, we'll fucking kill you. Yeah. And like, no, they like actually like read into the characters and like put in this backstory for the world and everything else. Like, I think above all else, the world building of Saga is what really like pulled me into it.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about the world building is that Brian Vaughn has said many times that it's like this world of Saga that he's built up, he's had in his mind since he was in like middle school.
Interesting.
And then it was actually him becoming a father and like his wife being pregnant is what made him actually start putting pen to paper and coming up with like Alana and Marco. So he had all these factions and all these worlds already built in his mind for like 20 years.
He just didn't know what story he wanted to tell.
Yeah, and then the second that his wife got pregnant, he was like, I have something I can work with. Because he was
so interesting.
Yeah, well, it's because the entire thing was made out of like his like, you know, like his nerve, like his anxiety and like, you know, like the love that he felt for his daughter even before she was born. You know, it's just so like pretty much any of the insecurities that you would have, you know, like being a new father, it seems like he really went through, and he's talked about that. He's just like, yeah, no, like I put all of that just on the paper, right? And it was like almost like a coping mechanism for him, especially at the start, you know.
I the whole like freelancer thing was also really interesting. I really liked how they built that like world, that like part of it.
Yeah, I think the whole thing with the freelancers, and this is my worm brain gets excited to think about, like, I would love a spin-off book with a bunch of freelancers. That'd be so fucking cool. But then I'm like, no, like it would lose its charm if it wasn't done with like the original two people, you know, Fiona and Brian. Like I need to like show restraint with it. You know what I mean? Because it's very like the world is so dense where you could absolutely do spin-off books. Yeah. But I just feel like it would take away from the grand story, like the story of the family that's being told. Yeah. You know? So.
No, 100% though. Like, cause the all the rules, like, oh, you know, like we're the only people that can kill people. The other, the good guys, whichever good guy you believe in, they can't do it, but they'll pay us to do it. Exactly. And the fact that he like, he gets fucking fired because he didn't do his job for so long, and they're like, oh yeah, you're gonna lose your benefits. Like, there was another thing that like had stuck with me that was like, oh, it's pretty interesting. Not a fan of the rocketry. That was
really?
Too much.
Oh, I love the rocketry. It's one of my favorite things. It's like a character of its own, dude. I love it. Oh.
Dude, how does it fly? Oh, you just have to throw magic shit in the fucking engine fire.
Okay, all right. So that's the step too far. Okay.
I can't remember what it was. There was something I was like, oh yeah. Is there someone's arc that I'm forgetting? Because it's like, all right, you see a couple of things are from the perspective of the photographer and the reporter, and then there's stuff with Marco and Alana.
Then there's Prince Robot. And then there's the Will. There's Gwendolyn. I mean, Gwendolyn?
No, the robot janitor that.
Dango. Yeah.
And then like the domestic terrorist that he befriends.
He's the Unabomber.
That's kind of what I thought, right? Because something did not add up. And then, like, they kind of just fuck off and you don't see them anymore.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything.
If I remember correctly, I haven't read it in about almost a year now, to be honest with you. But, yes, to my recollection, do they die? I feel like Dango dies, doesn't he?
Dango dies.
And most of his crew dies,
Most of the crew dies.
Because they're killed by...
Because I think that they leave successfully.
Some of them do.
Some of them do.
Yeah, I think most of them get killed. I don't know which ones.
Because then it's the winged people.
Yes.
That take the other two, the Marco's mom and Hazel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I do think like Dango is one of those like curveballs that gets thrown into the story.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like he's really not in the story for all that long, but I feel like he serves such like a pivotal point for like when because initially you just think, oh, Marco needs bless you. It's bless you again.
Thank you.
But like Marco and Alana have this falling out, and you're like, oh god, how are they going to come back from this? And then Dango is just like, you're coming with me. It's like that's it. And it I think what that arc does best is showing how Marco and Alana come back together for Hazel.
Yeah.
Like the whole time when they're trying to like do like heists and shit while they're trying to find Hazel is great.
And it was interesting because it kind of it parallels like their kind of illustrious beginnings.
For sure. It's very like spontaneous, right?
Yes,
which I think is what both of them kind of hooked up from.
I think. So here's my question. This is I gotta pick your brain. Do you think that Marco was unfaithful? Like, do you think that whatever his relationship was with the dance teacher, if that constituted some sort of cheating? I don't know.
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's like it wasn't like a physical affair, but the big thing that people have been talking about a lot in the past couple of years, just with people, the populace trying to gain emotional intelligence,
right,
that that was like an emotional affair.
Right.
Like you may not be having sex with them,
right,
but you are like having very kind of like flirtatious things, telling her things that you wouldn't tell your wife.
Okay.
Right.
Okay,
that kind of vibe. Yeah.
All right. That's kind of like, that's what I thought. But then I was thinking like, oh, is this older than I think it is, and like that's just my mindset because that's what we talk about now, or is that the way it was supposed to be interpreted whenever it came out too?
I think it was supposed to be interpreted that way, mostly because I feel like if you look at everything else in this series that deals with like real world kind of conflicts, right? Whether it's the abortion stuff or like Petrichor being trans, like that kind of stuff, it's all handled with a lot of care. So I would have to assume that this was meant to be the same way, right? Because otherwise, like it takes restraint. Because it'd be so easy, right? Just be like, oh, they had a falling out because Marco fucked the dance teacher,
right.
but he didn't,
Yeah.
So but instead, it felt. Honestly, in some ways, for Alana, it was probably like more crushing that it was just like, you're muttering her name in your sleep.
Yeah.
And even though he hasn't even like kissed her or anything,
right.
Like he's thinking about her even when he's away from her, and not his wife.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if she wasn't a fucking junkie.
Well, yeah. That's one of the things I love the most about the series is that every single character is flawed in their own way.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like Marco, he's also a junkie for a few issues.
It's true.
He's also like. There was a time where, he threw that bag of groceries at Alana and she just cut that shit out, right? Like
strong, independent woman.
Yeah, and listen, in Alana, also a junkie. Prince Robot, a fucking war criminal, right?
Yeah.
Like, and like the same can be said for like every character in the series, right? And I think one of my favorite parts, and I think this probably comes into effect when we think about how Brian K. Vaughan, when he was a parent when this, he was becoming a parent when this was first coming out, was when, despite all of that, they try their best, right, to not let that affect Hazel. Right,
that's true.
Like they both kind of keep like the business face on, I guess, when they're with their daughter.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's not something I really thought about. Yeah, I mean, it's very, I reflected because I knew we were going to talk about this in the future. We had filmed our Bebop episode before I went, and and there is a very clear parallel to be drawn between the ragtag bunch of people where no one likes each other on the fucking tree rocket ship and the ragtag group of people that all hate each other on the Bebop.
Bebop is the blueprint, baby.
Like, obviously Alana, Hazel, and Marco have like a happy relationship, but then you throw in Prince Robot and his son and Petrichor, and at one point Marco's mom and Marco's dad until he died. The whole thing, both Petrichor and Marco's dad being seamstresses that are like, they make the clothes and the clothes are magical. That was really cool. I thought that was really neat. They were very interesting. Like, you just told us that you're dying and the only thing you want to do is like rip on the fucking sewing machine because you want to make clothes for your unborn grandchild.
It's for how short of a time that Marco's dad is in the series.
Yeah.
Like he leaves a big impact.
He does. He does.
And one of the things that probably my favorite part of the story, honestly, like I think one of the main things that makes it stand out is Hazel's narration throughout it.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like,
very funny.
And like a lot of it's really funny, especially like in kind of like the part 2 that's currently releasing, right? Like the the full second half of the story, is that it's like it's very funny, and also like you're kind of going through the mind of someone who is growing up. Like I feel like Brian K. Vaughan does a very good job of kind of showcasing like what she was feeling at that time without a feeling, just kind of like, I was sad.
But even it's like, it's interesting because it's very clearly like retrospective. So it's like, yes, like she's telling you this story where it's like, it's from her perspective at that time, but the narration is like as an adult looking back on her memories and feelings of that time. Oh wait, it was right there. It was about the dad. Oh, the grandparents in general. I think that it's a very interesting like story, the way that they're kind of integrated into this, the pod on the rocket ship, right? Because it's like they are both like products of their environment and hate Alana because she has wings, but they get over it because she was the one that birthed their first grandchild.
Yes.
And like it's very interesting to kind of see, like, because that obviously has reflections in reality, and it's like nonetheless very interesting to see how they like tactfully approach that. Like I think overall, like if there was anything that I was going to use to describe the series, at least up until what I've read, it's very tactful. Like they approach these like huge, like massive questions, issues that like plague humanity with like this kind of like easygoing, like childlike interest. So like you're never gonna like force fed their views or the views of the people there, but like it offers you a different viewpoint if those are not things that you're like normally surrounding yourself with.
For sure, yeah. And I think that does kind of tie back into like this series it's very progressive, right?
Oh
like,
yeah,
it's very again, like we already said it, but it's very squarely on like one side of the of the political fence here, right? And I think there's just on the topic of the grandparents, one thing that like really hits home is how obviously they do not have a great first meeting with Alana,
right?
When they teleport onto the ship and everything,
right?
Part of it's pretty funny, right?
Right.
But then as soon as Marco and his mom take off, right, to go to that other planet, the grandfather comes in and his first question is she normal, right? And then Alana says she's perfect. Now leave us alone. But then and again, immediately the granddad's just like, gotta get to sewing, that's my grandbaby, So and it's very there's times where even though the story does deal with a lot of heavy subjects, there's so many times where not only does it just show restraint for not making Marco fuck the dance teacher,
right,
but like there's so many other times where like this story could go so much darker than it does, but it really does try to keep like that human perspective of just kind of like overall, like when you look back, even though like the grandfather's dead, it's kind of uplifting in a sense, where he's like, oh yeah, like by the end, like he embraced his granddaughter, he realized that that's who his son loves, and like he kind of got over his prejudice, right? Instead of him just doubling down on the I can't believe you have wings, right?
Yeah.
Like it would have been very easy for Brian K. Vaughan to write that in.
Yeah, to make both the grandparents just fucking scumbags.
Terrible. Yeah, right. And then like I think he gives like an extra dimension to a lot of like like we said, the scumbags in the story.
Yeah.
Like they're all they're all scumbags for a reason to a point, right?
And like everything's for a reason, right? Like I reflected on it after like I'd finished reading what I have so far, and it's like it's impressive in the fact that anyone that's named that dies dies for a very important reason, right?
Yes.
Like the story cannot continue, like does not make sense continuing if that person does not get their fucking head ripped off or their guts disemboweled or whatever it is,
or drowned in dragon piss, and then eaten by a dragon. Well, and that's the thing. So, and like I hate to keep, I'm sorry to keep referencing back to the video here, right? But like it's one of those things where it's like they talk about it very early on when Oswald Heist dies. When he get when the author gets killed, right, and it's like there's this whole narration from Hazel's point of view where she's talking about like the kill your darlings trope, right? So every single time there's a character death, it's just like this isn't your story anymore. You know what I mean? Like you served your purpose, right?
Exactly.
And that's why like Marco dying like just hits so hard because it's just like his time has been served.
Yeah.
On top of that, just being a fucking gut punch, right?
Right.
Like the guy that was pretty much for the most part, like I feel like the primary protagonist for the first 50 or so issues. I mean, I feel like it trades places a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say like for the most part. I mean, I guess, but like I always kind of saw him as like the side character because my mindset was always like the main part of whatever's going on is wherever Hazel is. Fair, and so like for a decent part of the time he's not there.
I feel like though for a large part of it, especially like early on, like Hazel isn't really much of a character yet.
True.
So this is going to be completely reductive, so please forgive me, but it's almost like Hazel is like a MacGuffin for the first 20 or so issues. Like they're like, okay, we need to protect Hazel, like we're doing this to get Hazel away from so and so, we need to do this to feed Hazel.
She have a normal life.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing I was going to say is, there are definitely some scenes that are a little graphic. We'll say graphic.
In the sexual sense?
Yeah.
Or yes.
But
yes.
I don't think it was ever gratuitous.
No.
Like they definitely like obviously they're like, well, I'm fucking publishing whatever I want, and if I want dirty rotten alien puss in my comics, so help me God.
There was actually one of those issues like this it has since been changed, but like when it first came out, it was taken off of iTunes. What? Saga was like delisted from iTunes. It might have been when the wheel went to Sextillion. I think that might have gotten taken off of got Saga taken off.
The idea that people could sleep with children, that they had to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, that's the game over.
But like again, anytime you saw nudity like that, it served a purpose. You know, it was never like gratuitous for the sake of like shock and awe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I feel like it feels like I feel like such a gooner when I say like yeah, all the sex scenes were done with such taste. But like there's a lot of times where it's done in, again, it feels grounded. Okay, like there's many times, you know, where I'm not saying that I'm just fucking in the middle of lakes, right? But sometimes sex just happens. Yeah. You know, it can happen when you're fighting. It can happen when you just think you're madly in love with somebody. It just happens sometimes, you know? And it's not like extended issue. Like, you don't have an entire issue dedicated to Marco and Alana fucking.
The beach scene.
Yeah, exactly. You do not have a beach scene for 20 pages, right? It like they have dialogue too. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's not smut. It's like
exactly, yeah.
Like they're talking while
even the time like you see Sextillion twice, because there's the time with Prince Robot and the time with the Will. And in both cases, like it's like dingy and gross, and it's meant to show you like these people are like the lowest point of their fucking lives.
100%. Yeah, it's I actually that's a good point though too. With when Prince Robot goes there, he's just like, I remember there's the one scene where like one of like the managers, I guess, is being told by like an underling, like, hey, should we check in on him? Like, we saw an alert that like the prince went missing. He was like, fuck no. Just like, it's like he's running up his tab.
Not those credit cards tapped
exactly.
out. Yeah. I think I think that a lot of the most like graphic like sex scenes were related to Prince Robot, and I think they're important to building his character a little bit, because it's like you see him talk to, I can't remember if it's to Petrichor or to somewhere else, but he talks about like imagining having an orgy with his squad mates.
Oh no, he's talking about that with the author. Right before he dies, because he's like, what did you see before the light? Like, like right before you thought you were about to die, what did you see?
Yes. Yeah. And that was like, I don't know, like it was, because I think that's the first time he was ever really like, specifically Prince Robot, is like open about anything like that.
Yes.
So it's like, it's interesting because it's like, it develops his character so much more than like what you'd seen up until that point. Because at that point, he's still a prince. He's still acting at least a little princely.
Yeah, and he's also, to add on to that, he's also very like, he's very cold to everyone. Like, he's very matter of fact. So like, even when he's talking to his wife, he's just kind of like, hello, wife, is the baby okay?
Like royal upbringing, you know.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, it's very I think Saga handles sex well. Like, and again,
I think so.
I'm very biased trying to look at the series. I can admit it. Like, I truly think it's my favorite comic ever.
But I think it does, because it's like, you know, I'm not someone who reads smut, right? Like you know, you'd have to talk to some of my colleagues for the ins and outs on that. But I have read like a lot of sci-fi and like a lot of like older books that are like considered classics, and oftentimes like sex scenes or like romance in general is kind of just like tossed under the rug.
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, it's there because it's like it's part of the human existence or whatever else. I think Saga does a much better job of like, especially between Alana and Marco, like, yeah, it's like a regular part of being a human being, and like sometimes it happens when you're in a shitty mood, or when maybe you're not really into it, or like maybe you're just doing it to get through the day. And it's like, I think that they did a good job of like handling that more like mundane component of like being married to someone for the rest of your life.
Right. Like, I feel like as someone who this does not leave this audio recording, but like as someone who has read like some smut in my time, right? I'm not ashamed. It's all right. Listen, I'm a man with needs. It's okay.
It's 2024.
Yeah, it's 2024. Yeah. I can read smut occasionally.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's the way that it's like advertised with some things, right? Where it's like, if there's a comic book that's going to be, or like a book, right? Yeah. Like ACOTAR is the big thing now. A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Oh yes, I've heard of this.
I'm sure many of your colleagues have probably read.
Yeah.
My wife, is, along with a bunch of other friends, have also read it. You know, like there's so many things where it's like things are advertised as like the spicy book, or like or it's a comic that's, or it's gonna be like if it's a comic, it's like, this is the issue where they fuck. You know, like
this is it. This is a big one.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it like Saga doesn't do that, right?
No,
It's just
no.
a part. It like you really nailed it on the head where you were like it nails kind of the mundane aspect of sex,
Yeah.
right? And like like it's part of the human existence.
Yeah.
It's spontaneous, like it's very spontaneous sometimes, but it's just it's there.
And I think it's like cute and funny that Hazel never narrates that.
Yes, yeah.
Like
Yeah, I think you can tell in the narration, like there's times where she'll do almost like a cut the black kind of thing where it's like, and that's when my parents got back together. And then there's like 2 pages like without any narration, and then she goes back. Yeah, it's great. I'm
I know who we haven't talked about.
who have we not talked about?
Ghost.
The what?
The ghost. Her babysitter.
Oh my God, Isabel! Wow, holy shit! How did we skip over Isabel this long?
Well, because she died twice.
That's true. Man, yeah, I loved Isabel. You take this one.
Well, no, just generically like fan favorite, because you were like, oh, Prince Raoul's my favorite character. I'm like, I don't know who is, and then I was like, oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, I think there's part of this, like, there's a good chunk of this series that I feel like was written in the early 2000s, and it's really hard for me to describe why, but I'm going to attempt to. I feel like there's parts of this that are written like an early 2000s TV show with like the comedy.
Yeah.
Right, so like it's nothing too X-rated, nothing too like just conversationally it's very like witty a lot of the time. Dare I say Whedon-esque? Not to give Joss Whedon any credit, terrible person, but just like it the way that Isabel talks and like how she kind of is just constantly like quipping.
Yeah.
It does remind me of kind of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a bit,
So,
like that kind of vibe.
To rebut you a little bit.
Sure.
Have you ever considered the fact that maybe she's written specifically like that to remind you of the fact that she died, like that her childhood ended in 2005 and never continued?
Yes,
because I also got that vibe, but I thought that it was intentional.
Oh no, I do 100% think it was intentional for the record. I think that was like she has that style of writing for her character, like she just speaks like that.
Yeah.
Probably because also like. Listen, if you die, I'm sorry, having no earthly possessions, right, and not being on this realm, if that doesn't make you lighten up, I don't know what will. like if I was to die and be a ghost, I wouldn't be fucking miserable. That'd be great. I would love to haunt people. See,
IMO, I thought she was very Toph coded. Toph from
from Avatar.
Yeah.
It's
very similar, like self-depreciating, like oh, I wouldn't know, my legs were fucking blown off by a landmine.
Yeah, I think her death was one that I think hit me the hardest. Like, that was around. I want to say it was around the midpoint of the first half, so like maybe in issue 30ish, maybe around there.
So yeah,
and
because she didn't make it off the asteroid,
right? Yeah, and it's like. I think that was like the first death in the series where I was like, oh, like shit's real now.
Well, especially the fact that it was out of nowhere.
Yes,
like, absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, I was not. Now that I'm looking back on it, like Isabel dying again in that issue was just the first time in that book where like there's plenty of other surprises and kind of like twists and stuff like that, but like that was the first time that a character death happened, and I was like, oh, we're playing for keeps now. We're playing for keeps. Like we are like fully going in on this. Like she's not coming back.
Right.
And they made that painfully obvious when Hazel felt her like disappear.
Yeah.
It was like, oh fuck, like Isabel is gone.
Yeah.
And she was like a fan favorite character.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and they introduced her very early on too. Like I think that was one of the things where it's like they do a very good job of slowly trickling in these like named characters, and like Isabel was a good prototype, like pretty low stakes. She didn't actually exist, like
that is a good point. Like by issue 2, you weren't really expecting anybody to like not super high stakes yet,
and it definitely wasn't gonna be like, so yes, I'm gonna possess your daughter, and like I don't know. I think it's a good way to say it. Like you said, like playing for keeps, like. Her existence like being tied to Hazel like very early on was like a good way of like kind of showing you what was at stake for the rest of the series.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and the thing too is that like the whole reason how they even met Isabel in the first place was because Marco like almost died.
Yeah.
Like in issue 2.
Yeah.
It's oh man, I just love this series. It's great. Like there's so many things that it's just everything is like like you can chew on any little aspect of it. You know what I mean? Like you can talk about any character arc at length. You can talk about any just other aspect of the story at length. Like we spent 5 minutes talking about how sex is in the book.
Yeah.
You know, like and even like the way that they deal with like drugs, right?
Yeah.
Like drugs and abuse and all these other, you know, like very human things. Like it's not
and like the
afraid to-
human cost of it, right? So it's like you see, you know, obviously Alana and Marco are at each other's throats, and then obviously the one that I think hits the hardest is the Will. Like they're like, your mind's gonna turn to fucking mush if you keep trying to hallucinate me. And then like he starts seeing his sister, who was like, you know, get off your fucking ass, and
yeah,
like I don't know, it's interesting because like specifically for him, I don't remember what the berries were called, but whatever the fucking berries are, right?
yes, yeah,
Like the fact that you hallucinate people, but also that they end up kind of like maintaining their personality and character. Like it's not just like these yes people, right? It's like his ex-girlfriend like convincing him to kill people, and his like sister being like, no, like get off your ass and like go do your job, like
yeah, like get to work,
get to work.
Yeah, I think and if you do want to keep reading, I think you'll see this a little bit more too, but it's like I think it's fascinating how, you know, most people in Saga, like most of the main crew, right? They get better, like they become better by the end of the series, right? Like Alana and Marco, like we're pretty decent people to start, you know, well, like from the get-go. But you know, like they become like accomplished parents, you know, like they've established like who they are as people, right?
What did you think of the person that kidnapped the Will?
Oh, the fucking mole person?
Yes.
I think she was a very interesting. I think what she did for the story, and again, I don't remember her name. I'm not going to pretend that she had like a huge character arc or anything like that. But I think she was a very entertaining character to have.
Yes.
Like I found I was so, and again, the writing is fucking brilliant. Okay, fucking 30 issues earlier, right? The Will kills her boyfriend. Like, are you fucking kidding me? It's crazy.
And then I'm thinking, right, in my mind, like this is the reincarnation of Princess Robot or something like that, because they're talking about themselves like this, they're so important and all this other shit, and then like, oh no, I'm actually just a rat.
Yeah, well, and again, like the thing that I love about Saga is that you could almost like the way on how these characters' backgrounds are written, you could almost see an entire series written about them.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
like there's this story about a domesticated housewife that lives on Sextillion, and her security guard fiance gets murked by some mercenary. So she buys a fucking jellyfish. What do you think about the jellyfish spaceship? Was that too far for you too?
You mean the one that had like the Barbie house inside of it?
Yes.
Very interesting.
Okay,
Very interesting.
so you liked that, but you didn't like the tree house.
Like
I'm curious to see what the line is.
Like the fact that it's all over the place, like it's just weird, right? It's like, you know, the Will has like ostensibly the space Winnebago, right? like I don't know, like it's something I could foresee a human being like in the far future, like traveling through space in, right?
For sure.
The Barbie ship, like I get it, like it was like pyramid shaped on the outside, like that works. All right, that's a spaceship. Yeah. The tree, I can't get behind it.
That's fair.
It stems from this. When I was a kid, I read this book called My Side of the Mountain.
I'm not familiar, but
okay, so it's this kid. He grows up in New York. He runs away from his family, and he lives in the Catskill Mountains in this giant tree that he hollowed out. And it's interesting because it's kind of like Hatchet, but if someone could use the library and not just survive in the woods by themselves.
Okay.
And so it's interesting because it's like he talks about making friends and all this other stuff and like learning all these trades and then like trading with other people for things he needs. Well, in one of the books, he lives in the Catskill Mountains in the winter, and the way that he protects himself is he puts up this like leather skin on this giant hole in the tree that he made. There's no fucking way an 11-year-old could survive the winter inside of a tree with a deerskin door, all right? Mm-hmm. There's no way a tree rocket ship that uses magic helmets to fly. I can't. Okay,
all right, that's fair. But yes, no, I do think the person that kidnapped the Will, again, I'm forgetting her name, but the mole lady,
very interesting,
very interesting, right? And even just like how quickly she kind of gives it up to when I always confuse Upshur and Dolph, which one's which, you know? But like when she's just like, just fucking kill me already, and when she's on the beach, just like ready to die, you know, like she, you know, like everyone in this story does get better at some point by the end of it. Basically, except for the Will, right?
Yeah.
And I think having his arc where he gets kidnapped does wonders for his character, and I think that's what makes
But he's
me
still a
appreciate
scumbag
him.
afterwards.
A terrible, right? Because he has gone through probably the same amount of trauma as anybody else in this series, right? And instead of like an I can fix him kind of approach, he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna get worse.
I'm gonna get worse, yeah. You haven't seen anything. This is my darkest era yet.
And there is I think it's the first issue. It's either the first or second issue after that you haven't read yet that comes back after the big hiatus, right? You will say it surely cements just how fucked up the Will psyche is, right? Do you mind if I spoil an issue for you? Do you want me to say it for you? So Marco is dead.
Damn.
Dead. Because what the Will does, he goes to find Gwendolyn, literally puts Marco's fucking skull on a tree stump and says, "There, guy, I killed your fucking ex-fiance for you," and then they fuck.
Wow.
Yeah. So the Will does not regret anything, if that's what you're wondering.
But that was not an expectation, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you're hoping for any kind of like upturn,
His redemption arc?
No, there's zero redemption for him. I think he is probably going to die a very vicious death someday in this story.
I'm assuming now the turnaround is that they're all going to try and kill him, right?
So nothing has been said yet, actually. So currently, without getting too into spoilers, and the only reason why I said that Will thing is because it happens in like the first issue back.
Yeah. I mean, they have to settle it, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were just like, listen, this is happening. So it's Alana, Squire, and Hazel. And she's basically just watching them with another new crewmate. But it's them basically just trying to survive and not get found
Petrichor?
out. Petrichor comes up.
Oh, okay.
She's not dead or anything.
Right. But
she kind of goes. There's a time skip. I'll put it that, and it's beautiful. It's wonderful. I love it.
Okay.
And I can't recommend it enough. But so I'll be happy to lend you the other trade paperback. Yeah. So that's most of my thoughts on Saga. I think we did a pretty decent job of covering the majority of.
I don't think that there's anything else I really can like add. Like I think it's challenging for me to articulate kind of what my thoughts were because I'm not really someone who reads comics, right?
Sure.
It's like it's hard without like the right vernacular to kind of.
So so actually one more thing before we kind of move on to this, we start to close out everything. One of my my favorite thing about Saga. Okay, one of my favorite things about Saga. I have many favorite things about Saga. Is that you could tell that, at least in my perspective, that you could tell that it was written for a comic book medium, right? Like you could tell that this was not written to just be a TV show, to be a movie, or anything like that. What are your thoughts on that?
I would compare it to The Watchmen. So, like, obviously, The Watchmen was built with the idea that you're going to have these 9 panels on every page, and you're never going to stray from that. So when you do stray from that, it's going to be huge. It's going to be monumental.
Yes.
It's going to be fucking kill me in the snow. Saga is very similar. Like, it is very clearly built with the idea that you have an omnipotent reader that can read the whole scene and knows everything that like the characters do not. Like, God forbid Netflix picks up the IP. It would be like live action Bebop. It would just not work.
Yeah, like I feel like it would. I feel like we're also very far off from both a budgetary and a societal kind of thing for a Saga series to do well. If it was live action,
correct.
I think it could be animated well.
Yeah, probably.
Potentially.
Probably.
I think we're still far away from that, especially in today's day and age where Netflix is just. A lot of these big like production companies are just treating animation like it's a sideshow, right?
What are you trying to say about Big Mouth?
What are you talking about, man? That's Netflix's biggest cash cow. That's do you know how many subscriptions that brings up? No, I think if Saga could probably be adapted at some point, but I think the industry and also potentially like from like societal perspectives where like people don't really consider still like animation to be like anything other than for kids, generally speaking. I think that's going away with our generation, but generally speaking, I think that a lot of people see an animated show and they kind of write it off.
For sure.
And so I think a Saga series, we'd be lucky to get a season, right? And again, like I don't think it'd be so hard to do, right?
Like we kind of said earlier, like Saga is best when it's these quiet, tender human moments that don't do well when you're stretching it out over a 30-minute episode or an hour-long episode. Like no one has time to sit there and dwell on Alana's miscarriage, or like. I dare you to find a producer that will greenlight Abortion Town in 2024.
I will say, I think this is just I know that you're not a big movie guy.
Yeah.
Right. I think the only person that I could see potentially doing like a Saga series and doing it well and true to form would be Guillermo del Toro.
Really?
I think he has an eye for the weird stuff, and I think a guy like him, I don't know how he would be able to handle the emotional moments. That would be my one thing. I think if we're looking to adapt the weird world of Saga, I think it would be Del Toro would be great. Between Hellboy and Pacific Rim and like his Pinocchio movie, I think he has like that creative mindset where he'd be able to do it. I think, but again, I think as far as like the more like human tender moments, Del Toro doesn't really do that too well. So like I'm thinking from like a more like visual grand spectacles side of things, I think he would do very well.
I'm gonna blow your fucking pants off.
Oh, here we go. You're about to blaspheme something. I don't know.
This one is out of pocket. It's so far to left field. Like, there's a certain game producer that has always been very inspired by cinema and likes, stealing things like tropes from movies and everything else, and like likes to look at their games as movies that you can play. And so I think that Kojima, I think that he would be a good job directing or producing a Saga movie, because there's a lot of fuckery afoot in Saga that is very similar to the espionage classics of the Metal Gear series.
I'm letting you cook. I feel like I need to compile my thoughts on
and
this.
then you look at all of his post Konami games, the whatchamacallit,
Death Stranding,
the Stranding type
Strand
games.
types, yes.
I would say that Saga is a Strand type comic for sure. Oh, something doesn't make sense here. Oh, we'll just make some magic.
Too
bullshit.
bad.
We'll just make it work. Oh, ghosts that only come out at night and have to be connected to a human soul? Just put the fucking baby in the tube. And
that is an interesting take. I will say that I never in a million years would have considered Kojima to do like an adaptation.
How do you make a show or a movie or something animated from something that was never meant to be animated? How do you make a game that was never meant to be a game? Kojima.
Ask Kojima. Exactly, dude. Ask Kojima. He's done it like 3 times.
Exactly. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I need to let that one cook. We might need to pick up this part of the conversation at a later point.
And then, if you want it to be bad.
Okay, yeah.
If you want it to be bad. Well, no, I don't think it'd be bad. I think it'd be different. I think it would be a very different take on Saga. The guy that did Mando, what's his fucking name?
Jon Favreau?
Yeah, Favreau.
Yeah.
I think that he could do a good job with the various like scenes and universes. Like he has shown a knack for working with aliens in his work with Star Wars. That I think that he could do a good job. Also, like parts of Mando are those like tender, more human
for sure
scenes that I think he has done an okay job with.
That I could see more than I can see Kojima, to be honest. I can see Favreau doing a pretty good job, especially considering that I feel like a lot of the Star Wars shows have gotten demonstrably worse.
We're not going to talk
since
about
he stopped. No, I think I really thought you were going to be like J.J. Abrams, and I thought we were going to argue for a minute.
Well, obviously, Saga is just a war movie, so Michael Bay should be the one that produces it.
You're so right.
In this version of Saga, we throw Hazel into the engine to power the treehouse, because she is not what the story is about.
Yeah, that there's gonna be like some crackhead that listens to this and is just like, yeah, I think Zack Snyder should be doing Saga.
Do you remember those 3 panels of the whole series where Marco went fucking ape and just started gunning people with his magic sword? That's the only important part of the whole series.
Imagine that, but slow-mo. In black and white.
That and the sex scenes, and that's all you need.
Oh, man.
Asteroid exploded. Princess robot exploded.
Yeah, so I'm okay never seeing this get adapted anywhere else between you and me. Yeah, I mean, pretty much all else, like, the only other thing I really need to say is just please read Saga. I think if
100%. Coming from someone who doesn't read comics, go read Saga.
Yeah, like I think it does a really good job of just being like a standout.
For sure.
I think that it obviously it hasn't reached like the huge cultural appeal of stuff like Watchmen, Dark Knight Rises, or even some of like the more well-known Marvel books.
Yeah.
Right, but like I think Saga, from a writing perspective, from world building, like there's so many things that I think just get just bullseye.
But
in every aspect.
I would I think Watchmen is the closest allegory I would give, where it's like it is something that could only exist in that medium successfully, as seen by the multiple shitty movie attempts. And like you can put Watchmen next to some of these like great works of literature, where it is like it is a form of human expression unlike any other that holds up against these other like great works.
Right.
So it's like, you can talk about Saga in the same way that you talk about like Steinbeck or Hemingway. Like these are like really interesting takes on the human condition. Just because it has pictures on it doesn't change the fact that there's like value in consuming it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that from the societal perspective, I think most
society.
people, yes, society. I think like the majority of people still very similar to how animation is still treated by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Comic books are treated as like cartoons.
Oh yeah.
Like people generally speaking do not take comics really seriously as a medium. Like the girls who get it. But most people don't, if we're being honest. Just before we move on from Saga, one last thing, and I don't think you've watched this yet. There's a show that HBO made and then dropped after one season because animation is a dying art form and it kills me.
Right, yeah.
But Netflix just picked it up. Not for a second season, but it's streaming on there, so I'm hoping it gets picked up for season 2. It was called Scavenger's Reign. I think I might have. I can't remember if I've talked to you about this yet, but it's an animated series set on a sci-fi world in kind of in a way where okay, so like how there's some like really good. I'm trying to figure out the best way to like quantify this. So there is sci-fi that you watch for like war stories, right? There's sci-fi that you read and watch for the world building.
Yeah.
There's horror movies that you might watch because they do something really interesting with like a monster or something like that.
Sure.
This is like sci-fi horror, but for like biology nerds.
I don't do horror.
It's not okay. It's not like scary. Like it's not like jump scares kind of scary, but like the environment is very like.
See, that's what I don't like. I could deal with jump scares, but like when it's like cerebrally scary.
Yeah, that's all that this is. Okay,
not a fan.
All right, yeah, because it's basically these
spooky.
It's about like the space crew that gets it's like far future, you know. So they're on like basically like a big like cargo ship, and it crashes over this alien planet that's like uncharted, and so like they're waiting for help for people to arrive and like get them off the planet and everything. Yeah. But then like the wildlife designs and like how this planet like biologically reacts to everything is so interesting. But like in the animation was incredible, the storytelling was great, and there is a lot of like those like quiet moments that we like in Saga. Not really tug on your heartstrings, but like it's more just like I think potentially the two guys that made Scavenger's Reign, they can do a pretty good job at Saga. I feel like if I had to pick one, I think that would be it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't get me wrong, I'm totally content if someone was to tell me, like if Brian K. Vaughan was like, we're never adapting Saga into anything, I'm fine with that.
What if the producers, like the creators of that esteemed show from Adult Swim, I think it's called Richard and Mortimus.
Oh, yeah.
What would their take on Saga look like?
It'd be fucking terrible. well, like the few times in the series that Hazel makes a poop joke, I think it would be that for 30 minutes, 10 episodes at a time, dude. Okay, all right. Okay, moving on from Saga. This was a delightful discussion. I'm glad that you liked it. Just lastly, I'm very glad that you liked it. I didn't steer you wrong because
you did not steer me wrong. No.
The other person in our there's one other person in our friend group that did read Saga and she did not like it. Nicole did not like it. Nicole, if you're listening, I'm sorry for calling you out, but you're wrong. No. So it's very refreshing to have someone that really enjoyed Saga and like appreciate.
I'm a lover, not a hater.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
But so moving on, just because you mentioned Adult Swim, so you have not seen any of Smiling Friends season?
I have not
2 yet. Okay.
No, I wait to binge. And I'm probably gonna rewatch the original season before because it's only like 40 minutes.
Yeah. I think that you will be overjoyed with it. I think, unfortunately, we talked about it a little bit last time when Josh was here.
Yeah.
There's one episode in the season, and unfortunately, it's the Mr. Frog episode.
Yeah.
I think kind of sucks.
The president episode, right?
The president episode, yeah. Probably the worst in the series. I don't think I laughed. I'm sorry.
Damn.
Like, that being said, everything else in this season was just firing on all cylinders.
Okay,
It was great. So I do think that's probably something that. Yeah. Let me know when you do it. I would love to do a Smiling Friends episode, dude.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
So I've obviously some of it's been spoiled for me because I am a TikTok consumer,
Of course.
but I watched this person on TikTok. This is like so many layers of meta.
Sure.
This was an American reacting to a Japanese woman who was reacting to Smiling Friends season 2.
Okay.
And the scene she was reacting to was the two guys have a fake knife and they're gonna go kill
Yeah.
their bosses.
Is Mr. Boss's wife.
Yes. And like listening to what she has to say about like, oh, their character designs are so cute, or oh wow, that knife is so interesting. And then like the person reacting to the reaction be like, who the fuck cares? It's like a toy knife. It's like not that big of a deal. Like now I feel like would it be even better to consume it through like 4 layers of reaction?
So what do you propose? Are you proposing that like we do a live stream of me watching Smiling Friends but I'm watching that same TikTok that you just watched?
So Zach and what's his name for the first season,
Zach and Michael, yeah.
did a supercut where they reacted to all their episodes in a row.
Okay.
So like when they drop the season 2 one, maybe we react to their reaction.
Okay, I like it. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah.
I'm down.
And we'll send it to them so that they can react to our reaction of their
Oh,
reaction.
that'd be beautiful. And then it would just be a never-ending circle.
Right.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Only other thing to do. Do you have a pick of the week? my
Damn,
friend?
I was gonna ask you.
Okay, let me pick something real quick.
No, it's okay. While you're thinking, I recently picked up Balatro on the Steam sale.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure everyone who listens to this podcast is familiar. It's like a roguelike card playing game where you're kind of building like a deck of jokers and other cards, and there's all sorts of layers like an onion.
So, it seems like just like poker on crack. Is that an apt description? Okay.
Yeah.
I've not played it, but I watched the Berkey video on it.
It's interesting because there's like it takes for granted that you know how to play poker, right?
Okay.
So it's interesting because like you have to know how to play poker to play the game to begin with, and then like that's the least important part of the game. Like obviously if you get fucked by the RNG of the deck or like the RNG of the shop, then like you're just screwed. Like your run's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
But like you can really like get ripping. And like the cerebral like fun part of the game is not the playing card part. It's the like building your deck for the playing card part.
So like when you hit like a good run, is that one of those things where it's just like the dopamine hits keep coming?
The symbol monkey.
Okay. All right.
And like the other thing too is like it, much like Vampire Survivor, it is built to be this constant fucking dopamine drip. So it's like every time you do something novel, you unlock something for that. Oh, you beat the game on this? Try this new difficulty with this new interesting twist. Oh, you bought so many jokers? Here's 5 more.
Oh, okay.
And then you're like, oh, now that I have this card, and if I pull this from my deck, then I can build this like
yeah. So
recursive.
you're thinking about like all the different cards like proc on top of each other and everything.
So then
That's
it's like
dope.
some roguelites where it's like you have a good run, you lose, and you're just like fuck, like I don't want to play this again. Like I got so deep, like this sucks. Balatro, oh my god, dude, it's like you ever seen that South Park episode where he's playing a video game called Chase the Dragon?
I can't say I have, but
yeah, it's like Randy is like playing this game called Chase the Dragon where you in one hand it's your arm, in the other hand it's like the heroin needle, and it's like the dragon's like, oh, you gotta catch me, and he just keeps shooting himself up over and over again. That's what Balatro is. You lose, you're like, all right, time to go again, and then suddenly it's 3 a.m. and
is that why? Wait, were you playing Balatro when you texted me last night? See, okay, so here's the thing, right? So that's what it was. Okay, so to give you some perspective, I think me and Amanda went to bed maybe around like 11 o'clock last night, and Betty, our dog, decided to go pee at 4 a.m. So she was barking and everything. And like usually, like if I wake up to her like whining or barking in the middle of the night, I'll like tap on my phone just to see like what time it is. And it was 4 a.m. And I was like, when I went to bed, I didn't have a text from Tyler. And now I have a text from Tyler. And no offense, it was 4 a.m. I wasn't going to respond. But
no, of course.
But, then when I woke back up again at like 7:30, 8 o'clock this morning, I was like, why was he texting me at 3? And you were playing Pilantro.
Yeah, so I Josh and Nicole were on yesterday, so I played another game, Surround Dead, all day. I beat it. Kind of fun.
Sounds like a zombie game.
It is a zombie game, yeah.
Okay.
Really good game. Highly recommended. When I beat it, they're like, "Oh, what are you gonna play next?" I'm like, "Oh, I guess I'll play Pilantro." Like I'd played like 40 minutes, something like that. I couldn't fucking beat it. Like the RNG was just like brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, "Oh, I'll just play until I beat the first ante," because I didn't realize that it got that there's an endless mode. It's like after you won, quote unquote, you could just keep going.
You just keep going, yeah.
And then also like once you beat what I thought was the game, it's just the first of like 12 difficulties. You then get the next difficulty. So I finally had a good run. I beat the initial difficulty, and it's so fun to get that deep in a run because like you have like good jokers and everything else. It's like,
for sure,
the requirement to win will be like 4,000, and you have such a good setup. It's like you get 400,000 points. You're
nice.
Like, let's fucking go! Like that's what it's all about.
Okay.
So then the next difficulty, you're looking at it, it's like, oh, it's like that's not like a big deal. Like there's no way it's gonna be like that much harder to beat it, right?
Yeah.
So I proceed to spend the next 6 hours trying to
Jesus
beat the harder
Christ.
difficulty.
So you're only on like the second difficulty right now?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And I played for like 45 minutes earlier today, and
Mm-hmm.
I still can't beat the fucking second. Or no,
That's crazy.
I beat the second difficulty. I can't beat the one after that.
Oh, okay.
And like there's 8 more difficulties that like I can't even comprehend. Like it's already so difficult.
So for the record, when I ask this, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence or anything, but do you remember I think it was back in like 2019, me and Mike were both playing Honey Pop at the same time, and we didn't realize that there was like a whole other mechanic to the game that makes everything exponentially easier. Yeah,
What was it?
We weren't using any of the fucking items.
Are you kidding
we were
me?
raw dogging the match. We both were. And then I remember because you came into Discord and you're like, wait, Jared, why aren't you using that? And I was like, wow, this makes the game so much easier.
That is so fucking funny.
It's hilarious. Dude, I played the game for like 10 hours and I was just raw dogging the match 3 too.
Well,
But, so let me ask you. So is there like something that you think you're missing, or is it like an RNG type
No,
of thing?
100%. So there's when you get to the shop, there's like 3 different areas that you can buy from. So it's like you can buy direct cards. So I think it's usually just jokers until you like buy a voucher, which is like another thing. Vouchers change like the prices in the shop or what's available in the shop or how many of something is available in the shop. Well, some of the vouchers do nothing. That's like literally what it says.
Oh. Okay.
So like I went online, I was like, these fucking vouchers that do nothing, like what kind of schmuck would buy these? It's like, oh, once you buy 10 of them, you unlock this whole other component of the game that makes it so much easier. I'm like, right. No, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. And so now I'm like, I'm playing the game, and like sometimes like you have to throw in order to buy those things because either buy cards that make my deck better or buy this stupid fucking voucher. So that I can,
okay. All right. Interesting.
and like I'm sure there's other like mechanics that are hidden behind that, right? So it's like on the main menu, kind of like Zombie Survivors, you see Vampire Survivors.
Yeah.
There's your collection. So it's every item, every enemy, every blah, blah, blah that you've come across. And so there's like dozens of jokers that I have not unlocked yet because I have to do XYZ first. Or like when you start your game, you can choose what deck you want to use, and each deck has like a different part to it. So it's like some of them give you more money, some of them give you more hands that you can play, some of them increase your hand, like whatever, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like teeny tiny little bonuses that like definitely sway how you're gonna play the game, but like not dramatically so. Oh, and also when you unlock the difficulty, it's per deck. So say there's a deck that's like this is just a straight up fucking debuff. Then you have to beat it on the base difficulty and then the next difficulty, like so on and so forth.
Damn.
And like some of the things are locked behind, you beat these 4 decks at this difficulty. It's like, oh my God, I could barely do it with like the cheesiest deck I have, let alone
let alone this like off meta thing.
Off the metal thing, you know?
Damn, that's pretty sweet.
It is. It's cool because like I saw people online play and I was like, oh, it's like seems like it's stupid, right? Because it's like you see people where it's like, oh, you need 300 points to win, and they get 1,000,000 points on the rip. It's like, wow, this is real fucking hard, huh? But now I'm like, oh my God, like it's fucking difficult.
Yeah. I do have a pick of the week.
All
as
right,
well.
let her rip. Let her rip.
So mine's gonna be a little bit different. I'm gonna shout out a fellow YouTube channel.
Ooh.
Called RSMP Tabletop. The guy that makes it, his name is Josh. He does, as you would assume, a ton of like tabletop content. So he's actually pretty new to the scene, and he's located in Western Mass. So like I've spoken with him. He's a good dude. And so he started by doing just kind of like randomly going to like these like like tabletop game stores, right?
Yeah.
And like playing Necromunda, playing his big thing now is Marvel Crisis Protocol. So
Of course, Marvel has a.
dude, it's good. I'm actually I just picked up the starter set. Funny enough for that, but no. So I've been doing the thumbnails for his videos for him, and he's been getting like really into Marvel Crisis right now, as well as doing some like Star Wars Shatterpoint, which is another like skirmish type game. And he's a super chill dude, and he's been cranking out videos like once a week, and more to be honest with you, one of the things that like really draws me to like the stuff that he's been making so far. His videos are super digestible. They're usually between 5 and 10 minutes long, right? Videos are coming out pretty consistently at one time a week. And also, because he's done like a lot of film stuff previously, his like the quality of the stuff that he's been making is like so much higher than like 90% of what you'll find on YouTube. So like, he has like multiple like Blackmagic cameras that he like runs like to like multi-rig and everything.
He lives in Western Mass.
He lives. It's super impressive.
Wow.
So Josh, if you made it this far in the podcast, thanks, man. Appreciate you. And hopefully he'll be coming on the podcast or at least doing some kind of collab video at some point over here, and vice versa. Yeah. So that's RSMP Tabletop. If you just search. It's Running Scared Motion Pictures is like the full thing, so it's RSMP Tabletop. I think he's actually working on setting up a Patreon too, but it's good shit. So
very nice.
That's I think that's all I got, man. How about you?
No, I think that's it.
All right,
another episode for the books.
Woohoo! Go team, and
right.
see you next time.